4 years ago, I was here in Manchester. The Football Lads Alliance asked me to give a speech. It was a pretty, bog standard about the media and what have you, but the overall event was to mourn an anniversary to the Manchester bombing, which killed over 20 people in the Ariana Grande concert, if I've said that correctly. Now, as I gave the speech, all seemed fine, except many authorities were waiting to send people home. It shrunk our crowd, they kept people in pubs all up and down the high roads. People had been kept behind to shrink our numbers. And not only was this to demoralise us, but what happened was, as we was approaching the minute silence, it was deliberately, heavily disturbed. And in the footage of us there, you can see me approaching authorities saying, there's a certain man who we know is linked to anti-fascists. Follow me. Look around here, people that might have been there will know exactly where we are immediately. I travelled up with about 24 hours notice. Down here. All this was fenced off, and the stage, we're going back 4 years like I said, the stage was there in the middle here. And as we began our minute silence, they must have all been waiting here, because like clockwork, the authorities have said now, and they've come around this corner and started screaming into this open space.
Also, stand up to racism! You will never win! You will never win!
Using this to help project their voices, and eventually we wound up getting so annoyed by it that we came down to argue with them here, and I was trying to sort of stop people pushing the gate and what have you. But this is where the authorities were protecting the anti-fascists' ability, and they were straight up Antifa and stand up to racism. They were breaking no bones about that. But this is where they made a huge attempt to protect them. We had a barrier here, and there was a barrier over there to keep them safe. Also, we had been told, bear in mind, that we weren't allowed to do our march. Yet hordes of leftists were allowed to march against the memory of the Manchester bombing, against the people, and bear in mind, I read a speech from a man whose female young relative had died, right? He had asked for me personally, never met me before, he'd seen my footage. He said, can you get Vinny to do it? Because I was asked to do my own speech as well. Can you get Vinny to do it? How could I, as if I wouldn't do that? It touched me. And as I read the speech, we all felt the pain of this man in the corner. It was really quite apparent to all of us. We even heard, borderline wailing. And there was a real moment of connection between all of us. And when it came time for that moment's silence, the anger wasn't towards the left so much, it was towards the disrespect that these people had, not just for us in that moment, but for the victims, and for that particular victim who stood there and gave me the honour of reading his words. Come with me. Immediately after the interview, I was approached by several journalists, especially a young, relatively easy in the eye lady, and she tried to tell me she was an independent journalist and started asking me all these leading questions when I was sat up there. She said, come sit up here with me, right? Next thing you know, I say, no, who do you really work for? Oh, maybe it's the BBC. She hands me a contract, I say, bugger off, basically, as politely as I can. That footage is still available.
To a respectable company, then you might be able to get an interview.
The BBC haven't covered anything. No, you're not. No, you're right. Okay.
But look, we're doing something very, very specific. We're not doing a news.
Well, then what you do is you take a phone number and you can talk to me on the phone number. I'm not signing that.
That's why I wanted to continue the conversation to say, can I take
The BBC.
Okay, you
Have
can
a listen, Vin.
number.
Have a listen,
You can
Vin.
have a number.
Well, that's fair enough.
I'm not being personal towards you. There's nothing in our interest. Nothing in our interest. So give me a phone call and I'll give the interview differently. Thank you very much.
That's how you deal with the BBC.
Up at that bar there, you see where the balcony is. There was loads of lads told to stay there. There was police blocking those stairs there, and everyone that walked through, they'd ask your name, blah blah blah, and then give a select amount of you a specific section order to say either go home or you're not allowed to leave the area. And they were guarding the entrance in here, so there was one way in, one way out. This way was blocked off, and then all down that road. I mean, I was led in by police horses as an act of intimidation. I hadn't been to Manchester in a long time. And all across there and all down the main road, pubs were packed with men that weren't allowed to come down and show support for the remembrance of those victims of the Manchester bombing arena, in the Manchester arena. This is where the stage stood, roughly about there. This is where the audience was, and just as we was having our minute's silence, from here they come steaming around in large numbers. And all of this footage still exists, you don't have to take our word for it. So I stopped, because I'm in Manchester today, so I thought I'd stop here to thank everyone who joined me on that memory, who joined us in mourning the pain for that man and mourning the pain for our country and the people that were blown up that day. Thank you. They didn't stop us then, and they won't stop us now. Remember, think for yourself. No one else can do it for you. Oh, and remember that loving your own isn't the same as hating others. We are who we are. I'll see you soon.
And love's old story, whatever hearts may desire, whatever life may stand, this is a tale that never will tire. This is the song without end. Love is the strongest thing, the oldest, yet the blessing. I only hope that fate may bring love's story to you. Love is the sweetest thing.